love that new intro. Moen put that together for us, and that is amazing. I could have listened to that for an hour. I love EDM. It's kind of funny. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Let's see. Again, I'm going to change this. Moen made an executive decision, and we're gonna bump this to X because I want to reach as many people as possible. Welcome to the show. This is the Sit Down on the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, the originator, the guy who got this whole thing going. And then the team I have is just amazing. Another guy that's come on and started to help us is Fergie, representing the Colorado Buffaloes in the Big 12 Conference. This is the Sit Down, not the Big 12 Mafia show. So we're going to cover all new topics in college football. Fergie, what do you want to say to everybody today?
That was a great intro. Love that spring football kicked off yesterday. I'm excited when there's real ball to talk about. So I'm excited about that. And the ACC news following you guys' shows, lots to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to those, and I'm going to isolate those out. Before we get going, we're going to start with Colorado. We have a few questions I want to center in on Colorado. You can kind of give us an update in your basketball team's winning games, which is absolutely insane. So we'll cover that for a few minutes, and then we will move on to the headlines of the day. The ACC from last week. That news is not going away, people. You might as well either put everybody who talks about it on mute or get involved and try to find out and come up with your own scenarios, because realignment never sleeps. And that's something we're going to be covering. Not just us, the world's covering it right now. And so we invite you to sort of get involved. Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you are watching on X, do us a favor. Just open up your browser or on your phone and go to the College Football Mafia channel on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. And I didn't do this last night, but I really want to reiterate, our members are the best members out there. And also social media. We share them with a couple other shows. Greg Flugar, Peek Around the Corner, is one of them. They're the most informed. They ask the best questions, and they get involved. They want to help their schools. And I don't care who you represent. Pac-12, Mountain West, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, who am I missing? SEC, and just go down the line.
AAC, yeah.
All that stuff we cover. AAC, sure. And it's because if you want to be involved, if you want to keep your school going, you're going to have to give them money and you're going to have to get attention. And one way to do that is get involved on social media. And the best way to do that is to follow us. So if you have a second, jump over and give us the subscribe button. I'm hoping to get to 5,000 here pretty quick. We're moving in the last month or so. We're doing really well. And then, just start tuning in. Follow us and make sure you turn on your notifications. You know, when we're tweeting news, as I did today. Big news came out of the P4, the new governance negotiations. There was some NIL news that came out as well today.
Yep.
So we'll cover that. But I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. I will get to the shout out. So if you're watching right now live, especially if you're on X, feel free to leave a comment. But we really appreciate any super chats. Just hit that $ next to the comment box. And if you want your comment to be read 100%, it'll have to be a super chat. That's a rule. And then I try to defer to member comments. But I get to everybody. I'm pretty if you're here, I'll read your comment.
Well, Ed Wayner's coming in hot already with
what did he say?
I should trademark fifth down. So he's old school like me.
That's
coming in
maybe
hot.
He's think that's his first picture when he sees your background. He's thinking Nebraska fifth down national championship,
Missouri in the slippery field, and then he also comes at it with
the old Big 8 and original Big 12 were fantastic.
Yeah.
Joaquin Morales checks in. He is a OG now, member of the Mafia family. That's what that little S icon is next to his name. Appreciate you being a member, Joaquin. It's great to see you. Hey, he says, "Hey, Bomber and College Football Mafia family, go Devils." That's Arizona State. And one more time, I'm going to get this off here so everybody can follow Fergie. He's new to the team, not doing a lot, just doing consulting and doing some stuff so we can cover as many of the schools as we can in the country. Colorado's a big one because Deion and all the new coaches they have. And that's my first question for you, Fergie, is tell me how Marshall Falk is working out as the new running backs coach.
Oh, there's a great picture on Twitter of Prime and Marshall Falk on a beautiful day on the practice field standing next to each other. I wish Sapp was standing there. We'd have our three-peat
Right.
of Hall of Famers, but word on the street is that he's right in. Like, he showed up. He's one of the smartest players ever. Came in and basically grabbed hold of the room, already making adjustments. The players that he's got, all of our running backs stayed. We didn't lose any or really add any because they wanted to be coached by him. And the thing I'm the most excited about is his input in the offense. We're a terrible running team last year, and so we have to get better. And I think Deion knew that. I think he knew he wanted to. We're going to run the ball this year. We're going to focus on it. We need to. And having Marshall Falk, who, greatest show on turf and
Right.
some great ideas, I'm looking forward to it because we got a good room of running backs, and we'll see if they actually get fed the ball, what we could do.
That was a problem. But you also had an all-star quarterback, right? And you have to go to his strengths.
It was
Obviously
to be a fan though of a team that used to run the ball all day long,
don't
and
get
we
me
had to
started.
watch the ball being thrown.
I love the veer. I used to love watching the veer offense,
Yeah.
early run and shoot type stuff, but it got the running back involved. I loved all that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Marshall Falk, you answered.
Yep.
Quickly tell us where Colorado is now in this third year of rebuild. And people have questions.
Mhm.
Lost a lot of stars.
Yep.
We don't need to name them. Tell the world why you think Colorado, is going to stay up.
I think the best thing about it is, as a whole, the roster is more complete, more deep. Obviously, not quite as star-spangled or
Right.
experienced, but the talent, I know stars are not everything, but these are some really good recruits. We're led by a couple of still, a 5-star offensive lineman who's really, Jordan Seaton has taken the team under his wing and kind of acted as the man. And he's probably one of the best offensive tackles in the entire country, top 5, freshman All-American. And then obviously it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. We've got 2, maybe even 3, and we're going to have different styles available, kind of like a RPO. It was funny to hear Coach Shermer talk about RPO, and he said we were just P last year.
That's funny.
And he said now
That's
we can be
true.
an RPO with either quarterback. And Juju has already gotten rave reviews. He's so natural. I mean, he's only 17, but long term, we're in good shape. And I think the hard part is now we're going to have to make some new names. We're going to have people hear new names. I think we're still going to be amazing at cornerback, which we should be. We should be cornerback university with the best, cornerback in the history being our coach. Who would not want to come learn from him all the little details? So we've got DJ McKinney, we got Colton Hood, we got Preston Hodge. We benefited from the JUCO situation, the Pavia thing. So we kept our slot corner, who was a stud. He got another year. So we're good in the corner. Our wide receivers, we lost everybody. All 4 of the starting receivers left and are at the NFL draft and combine. But I think we've got more talent, more speed. Our team speed has already clocked out better than ever in the history of the program.
Okay.
So we got some speed to burn. And if we can just get them the ball and see what happens. The best thing though, I'm going to be dead honest. We're finally good in the trenches where you win games. And the offensive line with Jordan Seaton and some other great recruits and some transfers should be much better. Our first one 2 years ago was struggled. Last year still struggled. This year I think will be way better. But our D line, we led the Big 12 in sacks last year.
Right.
And Warren Sapp is just a dog, and he just teaches and demands. And we have got some really talented guys. The one guy that's always talked about, even on ESPN, is Jaheim Otis, the Alabama transfer at our D tackle. If he becomes who he's supposed to be, it could be special, but there's a lot of other guys around him.
So I'm hearing, I don't know if everybody else is hearing this, but I'm hearing potential. I'm not hearing, except for the defensive line, which you just mentioned, I can't think of any other of those groups that says they can put their foot in the ground and say, we dominated last year, we're going to dominate this year. There's a lot of new pieces.
Mhm.
And as you know, team chemistry in football is like number one.
Correct.
So
all these guys I'm
how do you
talking about,
answer
though,
that? How do you answer the potential question?
all the guys I'm talking about, though, were in the program. So
Okay.
while the wide receivers, like our best wide receiver is Omarion Miller. And Omarion Miller should have played the last 2 years. He tore up USC. He tore up Kansas State before getting injured. But he did not beat out, in the coach's mind, Travis and Jimmy and LeJontay and Will. And he probably should have. Honestly, the guy has like his average per catch is 21 yards. And so getting him on the field full time, Draylon Miller, a freshman, the other Miller guy, that they're not related, but we call them the Miller brothers. He tore it up. He caught the first pass last year as a true freshman, and he's a Deebo Samuel clone. He is very good. So while we're not like the players who are going to step up did have moments and did good things, we didn't lose any of the true cornerbacks besides Travis. Obviously, that's huge. I'm not going to say it's not huge, but
he took away an entire half of the field.
True,
so.
but there's DJ McKinney had as good a cover PFF stats as anybody, and Colton Hood, who was the corner that kind of was behind Travis, is an absolute stud. Transferred last year from Auburn and would have started for Auburn. So
okay.
I agree it's potential, but we feel good that the bottom has been built. We've never had enough talent. The theory that the 1-11 team was the worst team in college football is true. They're good kids, but they were not talented. And if you keep substituting out and in, you're getting better. Funny story is, we were not transfer kings last year. Arizona State, Texas Tech. We actually recruit high school players, and they are
that was a
impact
change.
guys.
That was a change. Yeah.
So is it potential?
Okay.
Yes. Am I more of a 2-3 year kind of guy? Yeah. We're going to start back at the beginning, and then Juju's sophomore, junior year with this talent, almost all the starters are going to be sophomores and juniors and freshmen. It's pretty exciting for the next 3 years.
All right. I love your energy. By the way, everybody, Colorado was the 16th seed in the men's basketball tournament for the Big 12, and they came in and only have won 2 games. So I don't know where they actually play Houston tomorrow, which, I mean, come on. But talk about
Nathan. Now, Nathan, the reference to that is Colorado leaves the Big 12 to go to the Pac-12.
Right.
Wins the Pac-12 basketball tournament the first year we go there.
Right.
We come back to the Big 12. We do not bring a good team. And yet here we are kind of making a little stink at the tournament. I don't really want to get into basketball because we're really,
there's nothing to talk about.
No,
we've won a couple games, and
we're a program in flux that we got to figure out if we're all in or not. So
okay. All right, very good. Well, thank you very much for that Colorado brief. We have lots of national news, so I can't dive in and give you an entire 45 minutes. But that's a taste, so everybody knows. I'm willing to talk to anybody. If you're new to the show, please first subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. And if you want to get involved, I have guys that I brought on that have been moderators. I've had people come on like Fergie that just conversations, right? This isn't very difficult. If you want to get involved, I'm looking for other people for other schools. Doesn't have to be Big 12. I want to talk to anybody who wants to come on. If you're an ACC guy, I've got a couple ACC people now. They couldn't come tonight. But if you're a huge ACC guy, send me a DM on Twitter and I'll bring you on the show. And we can debate. We can talk about these questions. If you're a fan of Wake Forest, how confident are you're going to be in a conference in 5 years? Pac-12 had 2 years to burn to the ground. 2 entire years, 24 months, and they just couldn't get their act together. Yeah. That's where the ACC is right now. Essentially, Clemson and Florida State are the Oregon-Washington holding up any true powerful merger, but reinvestment in that ACC program. So we'll just have to see. But Fergie, anyway, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem.
Don't go anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
No, I don't want to go anywhere. I do want to, Nathan, I do want to say, I mean, obviously the team itself, but I like to give people like a 1 second. Why did Colorado suck?
Okay, you have 60 seconds.
All right. So I told you earlier that from 1989 to 2004, during Coach Mack, we were a blue blood. We worked hard. We were committed. We had everyone on the same page. As soon as 2005 came, we had a little bit of a recruiting problem. We fired Coach Barnett. And then over the next 17 years, we only had 2 winning seasons, 5 coaches. And I will tell you, internally, we had a bad board of regents, a non-supportive chancellor, and a non-supportive president. And it just almost burned us to the ground. And Prime was a unicorn that we brought in. And now we've flipped the board of regents. We've got a new president. We've got a new chancellor. We got a rejuvenated AD. And so while people can absolutely crap on Colorado for the last 20 years, we are back because we care. We're investing. We need to fix the old stadium up. We need to keep Prime, which I do believe there'll be a contract update soon. I think, believe it or not, the Dan Lanning news was a little bit of a kind of a poke in our side because we wanted
the fact that they re-signed him.
Well, we want to pay Prime 10 or 11 million, and Lanning's getting 11 something now. So it's almost like Prime probably gets another 300,000. And people are going to laugh about history and winning and all that. But Colorado's brand is valuable to the Big 12 because of viewership, social media, and attention. So as we discuss the ACC, Big 12, and the future, I come at it from that angle.
And that's fair. And that's why we have these conversations, because questions, Q&A, back and forth, talking about these topics really is what stirs bringing out some of these details, right? And our opinions, there's no doubt about that. But normally we only speak from opinion's sake. If we're going to give any other information, we usually, it will be backed up by data, and it will be tonight. We're going to talk about the new P4, A4, whatever you want to call it. Negotiations came out, and there were some announcements today, and I'm just going to quickly list them. There was the new P4, A4 governance, which has Oregon State on that board. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then there's the NIL negotiations that basically say this is what we're going to dictate. You have to register all your third-party NIL through this clearinghouse. And that's something Ute's going to talk about tomorrow. Or it comes through the school, and they're doing a salary cap. So really quick, we're doing short answers here. What do you think about the salary cap NIL part of that ruling?
I love it, and I hope that if Congress is doing it, the Colorado legislature is on it today, talking NIL. We do need to have equality in this sense, or at least a framework that people can operate. Because we were under the table back in the day, then we were over the top NIL today. Bringing in some parity, bringing in some fairness, so that players understand the market, the coaches understand the market, is valuable. I like where we're headed. I hope everybody plays along and sees the value in the whole product.
I could not agree with you more. I think that's exactly what we need. And what's interesting is there are schools, Colorado and BYU happen to be 2 of them, that have activist boosters. And when I say activist, they're out in front of everybody saying, we're going to dedicate our money to be building these programs, and it's not in the dark anymore. There's no bagmen, at least what I'm talking about in this part of it, that are willing to subsidize these programs. And that's not every school has that. I don't know if you saw the show last night, but Pollard, the AD at Iowa State, he's not too happy with it because Arizona's getting them over $50 million to subsidize their athletics. And you look at an Iowa State, population is not the same, a different demographics. I'm sure they have billionaire members as well, but are they going to reinvest that money in the athletic program?
But that money came directly from what? Don't you think that possibly even came from the endowment or from the school?
No, endowments that's education.
No, I agree, but we're having discussions in Colorado about how there is money within our endowment because we have a good endowment.
Well, you could have an athletic endowment.
Correct.
They're absolutely correct. You can do that.
And there's people who are, I know some of them personally, who are asking the endowment to reclassify some of their donations. Because when you goes in, you sign an agreement for your endowment,
Right.
and it might say engineering or it might say whatever. And some people want to kind of say, well, we've got X in endowment. Can we move that over? Because they did give up on the football program and now they want to circle back. Our biggest booster back in the day was an oil, natural gas guy. He's a little bit older. He's still involved, but luckily we have some new folks that have come in. We have some people we wish would invest. I mean, we'll take, South Park investment or something like
Right.
that if it would.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Those
To be on
guys
The
are those
Simpsons
guys.
and
Yeah, bring them back to the fold.
you know what? There's again, I believe in merit, so I totally support earning more money. If your program is successful, you will earn more money.
Yep.
And I also believe that in the capitalist system.
Mhm.
So the merit part of it is coming through the schools, and those right now are limited to 20.5 million.
Yep.
Everybody knows this, but that could move because the A4 is taken up over all the rulings, governance, and enforcement. So you're not going to hear so much about the NCAA. We're talking about football.
Yeah.
In basketball, the NCAA is still going to be there. That's not going away. But the new P4, autonomous 4, governance, it introduces some special features. And one of those features is this idea of enforcement and them taking it over from the NCAA. So I'll ask you another direct question.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a school that can barely meet that 20.5, but you want to be competing at the utmost, are you going to be markedly behind the schools that will go the extra mile with their college fund? Or are you the other way? You would prefer that everything Wild West and just go out and find money. I'm talking about between those two things, the NIL, third party NIL, and the revenue sharing.
I actually like the idea of coming up with a creative method similar a little bit to NBA, MLB, where teams that invest deserve to win if they're investors, if they
I
have
agree.
owners that invest.
Yep.
But at the same time, there needs to be a point where over investing or overplaying their hand needs some kind of correction. I
I would
like the
agree with that.
idea of kind of that concept where if Ohio State wants to spend an extra $10 million above some cap,
Right.
let them do it. But then they're going to give $5 million to the other schools in the Big Ten to allow them to have a little bit of extra game in the system. So I'm kind of a fan of and that's just me
Maybe
throwing
there's a
numbers out.
compromise,
A
right?
compromise.
Maybe we
If
come
there's
up
a
with a little
framework,
of this and a little of
if
that.
there's a framework and you can at least build your team in the same way,
Right.
but then you want to invest a little bit more, I'm going to give you a little room to run,
Right.
especially if you're earning the conference or the sport more money. But let's just keep it without just resetting the market. I mean, I listen to a lot of people about Texas Tech, their Big 12. I know we got Texas Tech fans. A lot of people said they're going crazy in NIL. They have the money. They have a great
Sure.
booster.
Yep.
But what they're doing is they're somewhat clouding the market for the players by spending that money, and it affects everybody.
Sure.
So if you don't have at
Escalating
least
salaries.
correct,
Absolutely.
you kind of reset markets and you create a confusion. And there's been articles right now that's saying that kids are playing for Colorado for less money because it's prime.
Right.
And they understand the market that has been set by Michigan or Texas Tech.
Right.
And I do like the idea that we can come together and play a little bit more NFL-like balance, and it's got to be your quality of operation. It's got to be your attracting students. It's got to be your coaching, things that matter to the rest of the programs.
Right.
But I don't mind a little bit of juice if people are keeping their boosters interested.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I want to follow up on one of those things you said. So this tweet from Stuart Mandel, I'm actually going to copy the where are we at here? I'm going to copy the tweet that Ute used to follow that up. If you're not familiar with Wild Ute, he does our data and analytics, best in the business, bar none. I would put his analytics. All of our analysis comes from these very specific. He works for a bank, so yeah. He has it all drilled down. He understands all the economics. Ah, dang it, I screwed it up. Let me post the link so everybody knows where the post is so that we can give proper credit for Stuart Mandel, but the original tweet said from Stuart Mandel, the Power Four and NCAA have hired an accounting firm. It's actually Deloitte Clearinghouse that will decide how much money athletes are allowed to make, a salary cap. And Stuart Manziel sarcastically says, totally normal way of doing business. So having a salary cap, some companies do, but depending on who you work for, salary caps might not be a thing. If you work for somebody that owns their company and they can pay people whatever they want, there's no guidelines.
Yeah.
They'll just give money to whoever they're happy with that day.
Mm-hmm.
So having a salary cap is not world changing, is it?
No, I think a salary cap with creative options. We got to have incentives for the world. I'm a big incentive kind of guy. I don't think people are motivated as much to work for an hourly wage anymore. I own my own business, and I would rather have an opportunity. If I can get a job done twice as fast and make twice as much money, that's what it's all about. I think you'll see that in roofers, and you'll see that in anybody. I'll roof your house in 24 hours, and if the job was $5,000, I'll take $5,000 home.
Well, you're trading time for money, and
that's what everyone needs to do, is understand time, talent, and money. There's a balance, and so I think the idea though of just an absolute out of whack, where the old system where you might have a school spending $5 million and a school spending $40 million. I don't know how we could play in the same CFP sandbox. That's just
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I agree. That's going to be, along with the ACC buyout number. That number you're talking about is what everybody's waiting for, right? Mm-hmm. What is the maximum that you're allowed to do this whole package, revenue sharing and NIL? And when that number comes out, and eventually it will, there will be this equilibrium. We'll go to sit down. I would just say the Texas Tech model, I have no problem Texas Tech buying the best athletes with the most money. I just think that there should be a maximum, and we try to remove these $11 million deals, the things that sort of break the market, that aren't realistic in a normal world or even normal universe. And I think that would really help. What you're describing specifically, a compromise.
Yeah.
The number is something 20.5 million plus another what? Ohio State spent 30 something. Okay, so let's settle on 30 million.
Yeah.
Let's settle on 35, right?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about those numbers is, weren't they trying to come up with some revenue calculation? I mean,
it is.
If you think about the NBA, the NBA Players Association, it's an open book, and in theory, the players deserve 50% of the revenue of the NBA, and that sets the salary cap. And then
that's where the 20.5 came from, the House settlement.
Yeah, so they did
a calculation, and I believe it was, what was it? I'm going to get it wrong. I don't want to say it. Whatever that percentage is, that's where the 20.5 came up. But everybody knows a couple things. More money is going into college football, so that number might move every year, just like it does in the NFL.
Correct.
And two, the cap cannot be something you can spend through and get penalized like they do in basketball and baseball, or else it breaks the market, and now you have super teams and nobody can play.
Correct.
And like you said, I talked about it the other night on Jason Watkins' show, Hall of Fame. What is it? College Football Hall of Fame show. If you don't have those things, then the paradigm's completely whacked, and now you kill the golden goose, which is what you.
Well, I'm a big Baltimore Orioles fan and a Rockies fan, and the Orioles are in the Yankees division, and the Rockies are in the Dodgers division. And let's be brutally honest, the Dodgers, where is that end with the Dodgers, and where did it ever end with the Yankees? And I think that
I don't think it's ever ended anywhere.
It's never ended, and that's the problem, where it really kind of deflates the rest of the sport, and doesn't make it quite as, because the best way of college football working out is everybody remaining a college football fan and everybody watching. Otherwise, if we lose fandom in all different parts of the country,
money goes down.
These TV contracts and these networks are going to lose the enthusiasm to be part of it. So I think I'd like that we're at least heading in the right direction.
Right.
I did not enjoy the last 3 to 4 years. I thought it was out of control. And I think that they see a path where there's plenty of money, plenty of ways to make this work. And the interesting part, though, is you do got to like opt in, or is there a chance that there could be legitimate schools who leave college football because they just make a choice?
And we're going to get there. I think, we'll talk about the divisions and how that organization could go in a little bit.
Yep.
But let's do some shout outs, eh?
Yep.
Let's get to as many of these comments as I can. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I'm going to shout out as many as I can. Then we'll get back into the stories we were just talking about. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube. Let's start with Big Lubbock is first in the house. So there's your Texas Tech representing. Skaven Yes checks in. Go Big Red. He is second. Both those guys are valuable members of Mafia family. Thank you so much. I salute both of you. The soundboard Moen sent me. I cannot get to work. So I need somebody smarter than me to help me get that working. So no sounders, but I do a lot of clapping. Ryan Willie checking in for the Big Ten. Says hi everyone, another valuable member.
Very valuable.
Sergeant Pickles is a contributor. He's been with us almost from the beginning. He and Becky Go Huskies are on that Big Ten Mafia brand.
I was at a game on this Folsom Field against Washington way back in the day, and one of my best friends, a Colorado kid, ran back the kick. Boy, I'm still not happy about him going to Washington.
Oh, that's the way it goes. Anyway, Sergeant Pickles, afternoon all, realignment never sleeps. Absolutely. That is the watchword. Let's get to a super chat right now. I try not to wait on those. $20 super chat from Tales of Tomorrow Studio. $20. Make sure you subscribe. It's great to see you. I'm not sure if I've seen your handle before, but welcome to the show. Make sure you follow us and also subscribe on YouTube. He says, let's go, Colorado fan supporting. So there's two of you in the house. How does that make you feel?
Well, we're here now. I mean, we're not. We were in the shadows. We were bad, and now we're back. And I know people are like, "Shut up! You don't be arrogant." But it's at least we're proud of our program again.
I hope everybody's arrogant. I love it. I'm proud for my school. There's no reason you couldn't be the same. Mr. Ed Wayner, University of Houston, representing tonight. Good evening, all. Thanks for being a member, Ed. It's great to have you here. Oh, one other benefit. Sorry, I meant to do this at the beginning. We have member-only videos, and they're doing a show tomorrow night, and Moen and Ute, and it's going to be talking. The title of the show is The Carolina Reaper. I want everybody to see this. It's a members-only show, so you have to be a member to watch it. I'm sorry. I'll bump it on Twitter tomorrow, but you have to be a member to watch it. And the name speaks for what it is. Is North Carolina the next brand to possibly move up to the Power 2? Carolina, I don't know. Ute has numbers. He has ideas, and he and Moen are going to talk about that. So fan of the ACC, fan of your brand in the ACC, your top brands, this show is for you, but you do have to be a member to watch it. So I wanted to make sure I hit that. That's tomorrow. Where's the time? I believe it's at 8:30. I'll double check that. I don't want to give you guys the wrong time. Why doesn't it say the time? That's really weird. We'll find out. We'll find out anyway. Okay. Let me go back and then we'll bump that again later. So more shout outs. Jeff Morgan, another newer member of the Mafia family. Great to have you here, Jeff. Says, what's up, West Virginia, representing. MBM, somebody's come in hard and heavy being a member. We appreciate you, MBM. Go Pokes. There's your Oklahoma State.
Yep.
I see here we got another West Virginia. Daniel Gygax, not only is a super fan of West Virginia, he's a contributing member here as well. Hi, everyone. I want to thank everyone for making the ACC video at Pickles and Wild Ute released on March 10th, the most watched video on the channel. Daniel, would you mind repopping that? Not only on the comments for the show, take the link, put it in here live so people have it, but also repop it on Twitter for me so I can in turn repop it when I'm done with the show. That show was fantastic.
Yeah.
Sergeant Pickles and Wild Ute blew it. Sergeant Pickles, another data guy, if you don't know.
I could tell. Yeah, he understood math. He understood math that I don't remember back in college.
And Ute's the financial wizardry. Pickles is the analytics. So we got a team here that does stuff, and I really appreciate both of them. Anyway, Steele Austin, University of Washington. Sorry, my bad. University of Utah super fan who's become a member here on the Mafia channel. I appreciate it. Even if we represent Utah, and that's an open question.
Well, Nathan, that's from the us people going at Utah for their entrance into the Big 12 and their behavior at the beginning.
Yeah, they're going to have to own that for a while.
They're going to own it for a while, but there is a lot of respect for Utah up until this. I mean, obviously, they're at an interesting crossroads within the coaching and within the program. So they'll bounce back.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I know what the program can do. I've seen it firsthand for years, decades. BYU football, that's Shonsky, another valuable member of the Mafia family. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, Shonsky. Let's see. I'm going to get to as many of these new ones as I can. I want to shout out Rock and Rant. He's a middle partner. Somebody has come in and gave us a bunch of intelligence on social media and how things work on YouTube. I'm still trying to talk him in to come in full time. But anyway, Rock and Rant says, Deion goes to Colorado, and all of a sudden we got buffs on V.
He fixed it on the second 2 down.
What was it?
He fixed
buffs
it
on
a reality show.
Deion. Oh, okay. When we got buffs on camera, like it's a reality show for Affleck commercials. That's funny.
Did you see Prime? Prime actually had a video of him at the Affleck home office shaking hands with every employee.
Really?
He takes the Affleck serious because they pay him a lot of money.
You know what? He's a great brand ambassador. Everybody who signed up with Deion has done very, very well. Clint Moses, he's been a member on and off. I really appreciate him being here tonight, representing the Oregon State Beavers. Super fan is no joke. He represents, he sells. He absolutely is passionate about the program, and I really, really appreciate him. I love my Washington State and Oregon State brothers. That's why I'm from up there. 2 years in a row, last place in penalties, lack of discipline under Prime. What do you?
Not wrong.
So,
he's not wrong. He's not wrong, and it's a confusion based on what we're trying to talk about. I do believe it's program development that the program as a whole has to tighten its penalties. Spring practice started yesterday with some serious, immediate consequences for being late or anything. Guys were pulled out of drills for being late to breakfast, so I think he's going to
putting his foot down.
Oh, he's going to slap him around. Now, people would say, why didn't you discipline your own kids, or why didn't you do this and that? We'll see how.
Exceptions were to be had. I think that was the issue.
Clint is spot on, and it cost games.
That's
stupid. I don't like that. I don't like stupid football. I don't like.
I know at least one game that you gave away, that Kansas State game. Stormy Cyclone hitting us for Iowa State. Hey, Fergie, how's the rest of the Black Eyed Peas doing?
They're doing good. That's a great group. Don't knock them.
Who does he think you look like?
Well, he's using Fergie, the female.
Oh, Fergie, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, all right.
But he better. Come out October 11th. We'll see how the Cyclones revisit Folsom Field. Great to see them back. Old Big 8 team.
Morris Simmons coming in, another valuable member of the Mafia family. Colorado is valuable. Yep, there's no doubt about it. Nobody denies that. Jeff Morgan says, maybe, and a West Virginia fan and another valuable member of the team here says, blue blood. You said blue blood, and I want to qualify that. Hang on. What I'm going to say is for that amount of time, you could say they had an argument. They were in the top 10, top 5, top 3 for years and years. So you have an argument for a snapshot in time.
Correct.
Obviously,
we threw it away.
Yeah. So it's not a 50-year blue blood. It's not
up to 2004. We were climbing up to the upper echelons of college football, and we threw it away. Away. Now, I do say, Ute uses Winsipedia, correct? He uses statistics in Winsipedia. Right now, Colorado, despite 17 years of suckitude, is number 25 in Winsipedia.
You're right behind BYU. Yeah.
And that tells me that we were heading to blue blood status. We had the right things in place. We threw it away, and we own that. So Morris,
there you go,
or whoever,
it's turn the page, right? Take it, learn, and move on,
and do it again.
Tempest checking in, representing Florida State, saying, "Go Noles!" At Morris Simmons. All right. I love Tempest. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Bomber. Hope you're feeling well today. I am feeling well today. By the end of the show, I will be tired again, but I love this. You guys know I love you, and I love doing this. So I have unending energy if I at all can help it. Let's see here. Get some more first time chats in before we go. Here we go. The Chad. What did I miss? Not a ton. We're going to dive into the ACC and all the new governance, the salary cap, all these other things here in just a minute. I'm just doing some shout outs. Let's see here. Timothy Green, West Virginia superfan and the soldier on the East Coast for the Mafia organization, I will say. Checking in, saying, Bomber, I just wanted to say this has been a great show. I've been listening. I'm very, very good. Very, very good guest as well. There you go.
Despite us hurting West Virginia's NCAA tournament chances today.
Yeah,
we're very. I'm very sorry. Honestly, we're just playing with house money right now.
Well, you have nothing to lose. You're playing loose, and
we got some good young players that probably will lose, but they're fighting. So
I love when they fight. I would just turn around and put it on West Virginia. You have everything to play for, and you lose that game. So
yeah. There was that moment in the middle of the second. People make the point about that game where they turned it over like 5 to 10 possessions, and just a real moment of losing the game at that point.
Right. Well, I saw them in person. That's a good team. So we'll have to see what it looks like next year. But I think they'll still make the NCAAs. But it might be a bubble team. We'll have to see. Timothy Green says, please, everyone, hit that like button. Thank you, Timothy. Subscribe and comment. Thank you very much. I need to just give him the moderator tag. I don't know why we haven't done that already. Timothy, thank you so much for your loyalty and everything you do for us. Based Jiren, I think I've seen you before. Good to see you. Make sure you subscribe before you leave, Based. You can't be talking like that after a 2-10 season. For as bad as Miami has been for 20 years, FSU still couldn't pass them in natties or an all-time series. And I will just say I'm a fan of both Miami and Florida State. And honestly, you can make arguments for both of them being blue bloods.
A little Florida crime on crime there.
Yeah, they have hurt each other.
I do miss the Orange Bowl, knowing that we fought in the Big 8 to go to the Orange Bowl to try to play Florida State or Miami.
Yep.
And it was such a neat little
year after
us
year.
At the Orange Bowl, and then the Big 10 and the Pac-12. Those are some neat days back in the day.
I agree with you. Almighty Finn checking in, representing Arizona State. Good to see you, man. Thank you for your membership. I appreciate it. Morris Simmons, so you're 1,000% sure that the Big Ten will take FSU before Notre Dame, because if they don't, Notre Dame will block FSU. I will say this, he's talking Morris Simmons.
Yeah.
All right. He knows where I stand. He's been around. Just for anybody who doesn't know, I do believe that the top 4 brands, UNC, Miami, Clemson, and Florida State, will end up in the Big Ten or the SEC, and then trickle down for the ACC remaining schools. But I'm not sure which conference they're going to go to anymore. I have questions about both of them.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt in my mind Notre Dame's not joining a conference. So it doesn't matter what they want; they're not going to join.
It's a tragedy, though. I mean, I'm as a Colorado fan, I am not a Notre Dame fan at all. We had our days, we had our moments. Lou Holtz is my least favorite coach, but yeah. I feel like for the good of the game, again, somebody has to push them by some way, but they won't. Obviously, like you said.
I don't think so.
But I'm amazed. I'm still thinking. I know we're going to get to it, but I still feel like the SEC, the idea of crossing borders with the two conferences is an interesting discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah, for recruiting and everything else.
They're going to come into my space.
The geographics is absolutely interesting. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Lee, good to have you here, man. Thank you. You're a newer member. I appreciate you. Hello, Bomber. It's good to see you today. It's good to see you too, Lee. You guys always bring a smile to my face. You see this? I've been looking forward to this all day. Literally all day. One more, because Stormy Cyclone used my name. A little hint there. Bomber, apparently there can be unlimited coaches. ISU has added 2 more already. That's
I don't have want.
Go ahead and hire as many coaches.
I want consultants. So funny story was, do you remember Mason Crosby, our great kicker? He just officially retired, and my first thought was get him to spring ball. Have him kit with the kickers. I mean, have anybody of talent come and consult. I wish Peyton Manning would show up. He lives in Denver. Come and coach.
Yeah, I don't know. Peyton Manning, he's got conflict of interest, right?
Nah, he loves coaching quarterback. Well,
he's not gonna not coach at
We don't play
Tennessee.
Texas. We don't. His nephew's fine.
I don't see it.
Oh,
it's hard for me to imagine him being anywhere but Tennessee. But
hey, Nathan, Ed Wayner said he made a funny comment about can't wait for CU to visit Houston September 12th. So Willie and his boys will put on the Fritz Blitz. I thought that was pretty funny. That's our first Big 12 game this year. And I will ask him a question, which is, I believe that game got flexed to Friday, and I'm not a fan of that at all. And I know why they put in Colorado on Friday for fans, for TV.
Right.
But I feel like that completely ruins our recruiting moments, because if we play on Saturday, we can go to the high school games on Friday and then get the kids at the game on Saturday. So I know the Big 12 wants to use Colorado for ratings, but and I haven't heard Prime say anything about it, but in the old days, you didn't want to ruin your chances for recruiting opportunities.
Right.
So Friday games aren't the best for college football to go over the top of high school football and then lose your recruit visits.
I think that ship has sailed, in my opinion.
Possibly.
I don't. Everybody loves Texas Friday nights. I mean, nationally, there's we've been embargoes historically, but TV money is changing everything. You've seen in that, and all these ACC games that are going to be played on Friday nights now, and it's trickled down.
But you just had that conversation with your Houston guy, and
right.
And he was talking about filling their stadium. Well, even though
Steve said,
even though Colorado's a great game for them to have, if you move it to Friday, do you lose the high school football fan?
Yeah, I mean, these are great questions. I don't think so.
Okay.
My personal opinion is I think they're going to watch whatever's available. I mean, we're talking about junkies. All these people watching right now, almost 200 people watching us live, are college football junkies. Yeah, you like other sports and the NFL, but you're here for college football and everything that goes with it. And it's because the passion is associated with the schools, and the schools are more either local or you have some connection to the school that makes it feel. An NFL team doesn't really, I mean, kinda, and I'm a Seahawks super fan, but nothing is over my BYU fandom. I know that's the same way it is for you at Colorado and everybody else that's on my team.
Yeah. Although the Broncos are storming back to prominence, so we're Colorado fandom right now is at an all-time high. Best NBA player.
There you go.
Great hockey team. We're happy to. Colorado sports is at the best point it's ever been right now.
Okay. I love your positivity, Fergie, tonight. It's been a lot of up and down talking to people because of everything that we're going to talk about now. The new we'll just say governance, the A4 governance taking over all the rules and regulations to run. They want all of them, but they really wanted to just primarily focus on football and do their own enforcement. So what's ironic is the FBI fired like 3,000 agents or something when Trump came in. They got rid of all these FBI guys that weren't doing whatever they wanted them to do. And most of them are innocent victims. And they got fired. And if I was them, I would be going to the new P4, A4 governance team.
Yeah.
And I'd be saying, man, I'll help you out. I'll go and investigate football scandals or this, that, or the other.
Talent is talent. Put good people doing their job, and it'd be a good thing. There's no doubt. In the old days, though, Nathan, I don't think it was that a lack of talent. It was a lack of care. I mean, we joke about bagmen, and we all had them back in the 80s and 90s.
We did.
And now I think the best thing is that being above board and making a good product will benefit everybody, because nobody wants to have, we don't want Connor Stallions. We don't want any of these people to.
Yeah, let's not have them cheat. I just don't want
people to the game. Let's keep the game above board, and let's compete fair, and let's have fun and drink beer and watch great games.
Yeah, just Yeah, just have fun. That's all I want is just let's get back to a point where we're not talking about realignment every day and we're not talking about a super league, right? I'm a super league guy, but we're not talking about a super league that's elitist anywhere from 24, sorry, 28, sorry, 34, sorry, 40, 48. I mean, it's just ridiculous. These storylines, they need to get this stuff nailed down. And the ACC just put everybody on the clock with the ACC compromise. So I didn't have you on last week. What do you think about what the ACC did last week? Did you watch my Bob Thompson interview?
Oh, I watched all the yeah, I've watched every
Okay.
show, and
And
the
so what do you
ACC.
think?
Well, the ACC without a doubt is crippled. And they're crippled for possibly a lot of different reasons. I don't know, the inside machinations, like Bob was saying. There's some things you may or may not know. I appreciated his theory of it's not a settlement. It's an agreement of intelligence that fighting it would make it worse. But the settlement seems to just say that the ACC is going to throw its arms up in 2030 or sooner,
Right.
and just say, do what you will. We can't fight it. Now, I'm going to go on record, Nathan, and say I'm not a big fan of conferences in general for football, because I don't know how these conferences fighting with their fingernails to keep their teams in agreements or not in agreements. And this started all the way back when Oklahoma sued the NCAA to get its TV rights.
Right.
And it's been awkward. I like your Super League only from the standpoint of I wish everyone was in the same pool.
Right.
And then you could, instead of these conferences fighting each other and then us talking about who are our best teams, who are our weak links, who are our milkers. I would rather see there's so much benefit to the fan and to the money to be made to have everybody just call a timeout and get together and put together a league that might have 60 teams if all 60 teams could meet a certain threshold of commitment, of money, of stadium, and come up with minimum standards. And I throw out the term, you're a soccer guy, I'm a soccer guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the Bundesliga is a very interesting league structure. It's different than anyone else in the world. It's like having 30 some Green Bay Packer teams.
Okay.
Because the Green Bay Packers in the NFL are the only team owned by the fans. They don't have an owner, but yet they function correctly. They're majorly supported in a small market. The Bundesliga is the 50+1, meaning the fans own the team, but a benefactor comes in and operates the team. I would rather see 60 top CFB teams in a structured organization with big investment, balanced scheduling, all of the rules. I think college football could dominate that type of structure if possible. And I think the ACC is setting up another domino. But I'm going to throw out that, are we sure that the Big 12 isn't far behind the ACC in terms of exposure as we head into our 2031 renegotiation? The Pac-12, why the Pac-12 blew up is USC sat quietly, vetoed a lot of votes, and ultimately got the power they needed to go to the Big Ten.
Right.
And so USC is not off scot-free. Us Colorado folks do not appreciate what USC.
Let's not get into the Pac-12. Let's stop there, okay? We can talk about Pac-12 reminisce whenever you want, but I think your point is given. I think what you're talking about is, again, the Supra League that I invented, which is basically a separate division that has its own rules, and there's a number. Maybe that number is 135 teams. I don't know what the number is, but in that group, there's minimum standards. You have to do minimum commitments to your facilities and your coaches. Everybody has to meet minimums, and then you're participating. Everybody's competing for the same trophy, like the Premier League.
Yep.
And you might not like soccer, but that system works. What they don't do is have a playoff, and that's the one thing that college football could do.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this next. So the first thing we talked about there was what was it? So I'm losing my train of thought.
The governance structure.
Governance. Thank you. Okay, so this next one is a tweet. I'm going to take. Everybody knows I love Mitt Winter. Please follow and subscribe to his stuff. the original article was Ross Dellinger. The power conferences in the NCAA formally announced the creation of a new model and enforcement arm for college athletics as part of the House revenue sharing concept. Before we get on to anything else, that last little bit, that last 8 words, sort of got thrown away, except for a few people. The House settlement might not be approved. They're assuming it's going to be approved next month, but there's a ton of lawsuits.
Yep.
And there's a lot of trouble for that. So this is all being built around something that's still not codified, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Mitt Winter, everybody knows he does legal analysis, and he just quickly bookmarks these for us, so we know what was in the not ruling, but what they sent out. It says info on planning underway to implement the college athletics model envisioned by the House settlement, and that is you opt in, $20.5 million, and your school is committed. All current power schools plus the Pac-12, which would have been Oregon State and Washington State, are already committed because they agreed for the settlement. So they would have to opt out. They don't have to opt into anything. Everybody else is not in that structure, has to opt in. Okay.
Yep.
The reason that's really important is because Oregon State retains a vote on this board. They have visibility, and them and Washington State are still being represented. What they don't have is they're not a power conference. I don't semantics, the names and everything.
But don't you see another lawsuit there? Because in a way that when the Pac-2 grew up and they created the Pac-2, they told them, well, you have 3 years to get your house in order and you're going to come back. But within those 3 years, the other conferences just said, nope, you're done. And it's interesting how they couldn't say, well, why, if we get our 8 teams, why are we not back in it? And it's a tragedy.
There is a lawsuit coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can't remember who posted. I'm not sure I bookmarked it, but one of the Oregon State super fans posted a brief about that exact thing. And I do believe there's going to be a lawsuit once they have something to sue. Right now, there's nothing to sue.
Yeah.
But once House gets agreed, the settlement is done, then the Pac-12 and primarily 2 schools could sue and say, why not us?
Yeah.
Right? And that lawsuit's going to happen, and they could win it.
Because I don't understand how the autonomous thing literally just silently just got like, no, you're really not autonomous. And it's almost like, well, we were autonomous. You said if we got 8 teams.
Right.
And what's the difference between bringing teams like Colorado State? Because isn't Cincinnati or, these teams have gone up and down.
Yeah.
Why is it not that way? And it's interesting that you say I've got to let the Pac-12 go. Well, now the Colorado State Rams are in the Pac-12, so it's hilarious that we can't get away from it.
Well, and so that's funny you say it that way, because if they sue and won their lawsuit, now there's a quote. All the schools that joined after, starting with Boise State, are they entailed? Do they get dragged into it as well? And now the Pac-12's back, or is there going to be a settlement of some sort? They keep their votes and their access, which is what I believe, but the power thing is gone.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I hate more than sunburn. Absolutely hate it. It's not right what happened to those schools, and I'm going to continue to fight for them.
True.
Anything else you want to talk about on those things? So,
well, the one thing about that whole situation that I've never settled in my mind is, when the North Dakota State people came and played Colorado, I had a ton of people sitting with me, and we talked about the playoffs, that the FBS and the ND and how
FCS is what they are, right?
Is what they love what NDSU is and does, and how they play their season and then they play the playoffs.
Yeah.
And my question for the G5 or G6 or whatever is, how does 70 teams play football with the hope that maybe one of them plays in a tournament? Whereas is a G6 tournament another version, CFP2, doesn't that sound so much more exciting and playful for those teams?
Everything you're saying is, I think, 100%. The problem is they want to be perceived as being with the big boys.
I know.
That
I know, but
perception is not going to go away.
yeah, but the funny thing is, again, I hate to reference soccer because that sounds too nerdy, but the U.S. Cup, the U.S. Open Cup, where you can
Yeah.
be an amateur team and ultimately play a MLS team
Yeah, it's
at the
like
championship.
FA in England. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'm just always amazed that you play so hard and you could say I won the Mountain West
Right.
and then it's over.
No,
Versus,
no, no. I think there should be playoffs
I think there should be
everywhere.
a
I
playoff where it's
want
like the
super
Mountain West
playoffs.
champion play and the MAC
Sure.
champion, and I
And
mean, I would love,
AAC and the Pac-12.
yeah,
Everybody plays.
yeah.
Yeah, I look. You can't argue that playoffs are fun. Everybody
Mhm.
knows that the NFL is the richest in the United States, certainly, league, and it's
March
because of
Madness,
those playoffs.
yeah,
March
March
Madness
Madness.
is right behind as an organized single event. Now this year, the CFP came in, and I think over time that's going to be up there, and I think eventually it will pass March Madness. But your question is absolutely spot on. Why don't they do that?
Mhm.
And the only reason is the same reason that Wake Forest and Syracuse and Boston College don't want the ACC to blow up. Exact same reason, Pac-12 reason. They do not want to lose the perception
Mhm.
that they're with the big boys, the money that goes with it,
Yeah.
and the extra access that they might get, although there wasn't much of that this last
But
season,
it can hurt
to
your
the
student it
CFP.
can hurt your student population and your enrollment because people might perceive that I'm no longer going to a big boy school,
Yeah,
and that's an important part of the front porch, and all of
right,
the other
right,
aspects of it. And that's why I would prefer to see it stay in that 60, 64, 68, because the one thing about people choosing to stay in that competition but maybe never being successful or being a doormat like we were is that people do got to win and lose, and the records will, fluctuate. I joke
right.
that if the ACC, or if the Big Ten and ACC combined and only played each other,
Yeah, there's not
then
enough games.
Alabama would lose 4 or 5 games,
Yeah,
and the records are going to be reflected that way.
right.
And I don't think people want. I think people finally realize, hey, wait a minute. Let's keep some of those other schools around on our schedule, because I also don't like body bag games. I'm not a fan of
I
Mercer
hope we
and
get rid of those games. The
Agreed.
Mercers of the world are a waste of time. It's just
Yeah,
an extra buy.
yeah.
So I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm just telling you, at the end of the day, that perception, internal perception, certainly Washington State and Oregon State, Cincinnati was in the Big East, for instance, that perception that they drop out of that club, they lose their membership card. That front porch thing is real. They
Yeah.
lost a ton of donations immediately. Their activity, it's a different world they're operating in now because they don't get that extra money that they used to get from the conference. So I think it's something that we're going to be struggling with it for a while. Let me move on to the next thing on this really quick. He said schools report athlete contracts to LBI. That's a
Accounting
reporting
firm?
firm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can. It's part of that other thing that we talked about just a minute ago from you. The I'm just the oh, now I'm forgetting the name. What the idea is, you have 2 times the money now, right? You're getting money from the school
Yep.
up to 20.5, and they can spend it wherever they want. And then you have this third party NIL, and it's literally pay for play. Everybody, let's just say that
Yeah,
out
I hate
loud.
I've never appreciated the idea that NIL, which was earned via all the way back to one of the original cases was Colorado's Jeremy Bloom when he was a Olympic skier and a football player and got kicked out of football
Right,
because he got money from, Nike and Adidas or whoever, and that was because he was legitimately worth putting
right.
sponsorship into. And now it's literally here's 5 million for your quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the question. Deloitte is who it was.
Deloitte,
The
yeah.
the Deloitte clearinghouse. I'll memorize that eventually. The idea is they're supposed to self-report. So this is the open question. So this is the second comment. Each one of these is bullet point. We're talking right now about third-party NIL, and then reporting to Deloitte to stay on the right side of the rules, the new A4 rules. How do you enforce that?
Boy, I The only one that wins is the lawyers.
Yeah, I don't know how that's enforceable.
I think that would be nice to have legitimate standards. There are ways to write rule books about commercials locally, commercials nationally, endorsing a product. But as soon as a booster, Oregon,
Right.
come on, Oregon could legitimately give $30 million to all the players and put them in a Nike commercial, and you'd
Yes.
say that's worth it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would like them
I
to
don't think
find a
it's
way
so
to
much
endorse it.
about the money, although I think we talked about that at the very beginning of the show. A salary cap for both revenue sharing and third party NIL would really help.
Yeah.
Just guidelines so the schools know what they need to budget every year. 30 million,
Yep.
all in, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's the reporting part of it. You got a guy who's got a YouTube feed. How you gonna? And he has 2 sponsors. They give him $1,000 every month. What is going to force him to essentially do like an IRS reporting and report that now to this clearinghouse so that they can keep track?
Yeah, I never thought
And
about
it
that.
doesn't go over the
Start a YouTube channel and then get donorship all
yeah.
night long, all day long. I mean, it's like a crypto scam. I mean, that's hilarious.
Look, there's nothing that I can think of. There's nothing that right today they could put in place that would catch that. Now, that doesn't mean once they hire 3,000 FBI enforcement people and they are able to pay attention to these schools, they don't get down and dirty. They make
Yeah.
some really strict rules, and then they start turning the screws. Yeah, you're not penalized, but we're going to tell the world you did this.
Yeah. Scare them
And
a little bit to
yeah,
not be
exactly.
so.
Right.
It's interesting because, it's funny. We have NIL in college football, and yet in pro football, in a way, Patrick Mahomes gets his Adidas deal or whoever gets what, but it doesn't affect the overall product or the performance
Right.
because they know their contract, they know their position value, they know their team value. The only thing I would say that I've thought a lot about is that don't you think rosters in college football are going to continue to maybe even shrink more? The Colorado roster right now is barely at about 80. And we're talking and even with walk-ons, we're barely at 90.
Right.
We're never going to be, Nebraska had 200 players, and I just don't think I think you're going to be shrinking the roster down because even 20 or 30 million, if you go position by position and assign a paycheck
Right.
to every person, the roster needs to be smaller and smaller to balance the budget.
And I agree. And we could talk about right now, they put in essentially there's 105 players you
Yep.
can have on your team now. So they roster limits everybody. The days of having 200 walk-ons at Nebraska that all suit up at home games,
Yeah.
those days are over. So all these rules have to be tweaked, and they're all being framed right now around house. And let's just follow up with this one. Shonsky says Deloitte is making sure they are fair market value only. I know it's not being enforced, Shonsky. I'm saying I wish it was. I wish there was a salary cap.
I think his point, though, is going to the idea that in a way you could calculate by getting data from, let's say, a local commercial in the Denver market
Right.
or a national commercial on Kentucky Fried Chicken, and that the actor and or celebrity in that position would be paid X, and that if someone was paid Y, that was 5X above it,
Right.
something's fishy. So they need to be paid closer to the value that gets established by,
But that's a salary cap.
Oh, I
I
agree.
mean, you're
But when you
literally
saw,
guidelines rules the whole thing, which is it? Guidelines people talk about rules can be enforced.
true.
Those are the conversations
But one
that
of the
have to
things that
happen.
you could say that we at Colorado got very lucky about last year is we did, if there was $20 million, we in a way would not have had to pay Travis or Shedeur any money from our 20 million because Travis got legitimately $4 million of real NIL. When you fly into DIA, Travis is on a United Airlines
Yeah, I saw
commercial
those commercials.
where
Yep.
he's getting your bag and he's
I
almost
saw it.
flying the plane.
Yep.
So in a way, we're not spending money on that, and that's very unique. But you talk about like the Cavender twins, or you talk about people who are really making a name The women's basketball players are beginning to carve out a Flage or whatever. She's a legit rapper and commercials.
I mean, it's the tentacles of this are extreme. We've talked about them for years, so we don't have to drill down on all of them. But I think the points you're bringing up are very real, and I think we need to have them in consideration for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The next point: athletes will report third-party NIL deals to a new disclosure entity. So we kind of did those, conflated them together. Mm-hmm. But again, there are two different things. There's revenue sharing, then there's this third-party NIL. Mm-hmm. The third-party NIL is the one that is disclosed.
Yep.
Right now, it's not being enforced, but disclosed to this monitoring Deloitte thing.
Yep.
The other one, the revenue sharing, is literally they're trying to come up with dictating who can get what from the school level, from the university, not just from third-party contributors.
Yep. You have a capologist on your staff that has to decide.
I think everybody, if they don't already, should.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. And then the last one is deals with associated entities will be reviewed for FMV. I'm not going to go through that, but I do want to touch on this. And this is a thing, I know, a lot of people follow me on Twitter, and Immaculate and I got into it a little bit today about the fact, and I got to take our pictures off here. I'm sorry. That down here at the bottom, Scott Barnes, Oregon State, currently one of the two schools that's not in one of the other power conferences, sits on this new committee. And what that really means. So I'll give you what my opinion is. I'll ask Fergie. My opinion is this, and let me bring us up so we can see everybody again. My opinion is it gives them access and it gives them voting power. So they're still in the game.
Yep.
Okay? Everybody now knows, here we are, and no, they're not going anywhere. But there's a little asterisk next to that said they were one of the settlees. Washington State and Oregon State were the two other schools that had to agree to this settlement. The House settlement is dictated by that. So now, yes, they're on the committee, but 95% of that, in my opinion, is probably because they were still named in the lawsuit.
Yeah.
And when they put out the notice, when Ross Dellinger posted his full notice, it had all 5 power conferences logos, right?
Yep.
So the initial reaction was, and I'll get to you, I promise, for you. The initial reaction was, wow, they're on the committee, right? We're excited. Let's dive in. And, we're back to being autonomous, and let's go, right? Let's hit the ground running and just take it. And all I was trying to say, and it's tough to do on Twitter, but all I was trying to say is just hold up. You guys were screwed with for more than 2 years at the Pac-12. People took storylines and went everywhere with them. You guys know about them because I talked with you about them. I don't want that to happen again. So I was just telling everybody, in my opinion, just take a breath, take a beat, and let's actually go through this whole settlement. By the way, I posted the link to the settlement, Ross Dellinger, and you guys read it yourself, interpret it how you want. But I'm cautioning my Pac-12, Washington State and Oregon State. They know I've been on the wall with them. I've been fighting for them from before the settlement or the Pac-12 blew up. Always have.
Yeah.
I'm not against you guys getting back. I want you back. I want you in the Big 12. You know that. But it's not going to be this way. This committee was not going to give the autonomous from a power perspective, and power really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Washington State and Oregon State are just, they're not at the same level. Go ahead now.
The only thing that comes to mind is when we listen to all of the shows and all of the input from all of our contributors, there's beginning to be other spheres of influence that are beginning to play a part. And I know we were going to talk about Congress or state government.
Go ahead.
There's no doubt that while the last 2 years were the wild, wild west.
Yes.
Now, if it's going to go to Congress and they're going to beg for bargaining opportunities and rules, they're going to need every state senator and every House rep And so there's a chance that while it looked like the Big Ten and SEC were going to run away, maybe enough people came back at them from new angles
Yes.
where
Well,
they said, "Oh
Congressman.
no, you're not
Yeah.
gonna leave Washington and Oregon. You're not gonna
Right.
leave, all of these places out." So I think we're gonna get at least some rationale about how maybe the Pac-12 has like a premier G5 position or something. I
Well,
have
I've been
no
calling
idea.
it best of the rest just because I
Best
don't
of the
have another
rest,
name
so they
drop
can
for
get
it.
into a new CFP. If they do a 16-team CFP, maybe
Right.
they actually give a legit guaranteed spot to some method.
You know what? I would say this, and I'll let you keep going. But
No,
just to that point, I would say if they were able to find a media partner that's going to pay them, and we know this isn't going to happen, but if they could put together the right teams and they could make 25 million right now, that's not too far away from the Big 12, right?
yeah,
So you can make an argument, hey, we're in the same ballpark, but right now, 7 teams, their valuation is somewhere,
8 or 9.
I think it's just closer to 6, 7, or 8. But
I know.
the point is, it's not even close. At least the other ones are in the same ballpark, right?
Yeah.
And that dictates really what their status is. That's my opinion.
Well, I think only the lawyers win. There's a chance that
Sure.
there's a chance that to get the House done, to get the other trailing cases, there's cases about walk-ons, there's cases about all these other cases, true NIL, and then when you've got to go to Congress and beg for the right to negotiate or to control a players type union. And then I know one other thing that's a big subject historically at Colorado is this idea that these players are going to be employees of the university and you're going to see paychecks.
I wasn't going to go into that.
But Nathan, I'm going to tell you right now, that's
Yeah.
why we actually, one of the reasons we had a bad administration is when, as soon as coaches started getting paid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we got a lot of pushback from administrators who said, what the heck? We have the greatest professors or researchers in the world, and now you're paying our coaches. I think it's not going to go well cutting paycheck, because imagine the FOIA requests when you're looking at it and you're able to look at it and say, the quarterback got a paycheck for $2 million and your greatest researcher got paid $400,000. I mean, it's just there's an out of balance from sports to academics.
There's absolutely no doubt about it. And those academics don't like paying out that money because they
you want to have them on your team, and now I think you're getting them a little bit off of your team by having them do. I mean, the coaches are already a big deal. That's why I'm a little bit of a fan of offloading football to a public-private partnership setup where this is
like
designed,
private equity. Somebody comes in and puts a structure
well, not
together.
even private equity. This is again where I'm talking the Bundesliga. So imagine this idea: the university will own 51% or more of a community benefit corporation, a public-private partnership, and then whether it's a conference or an investor or an operator of some kind, but let's run it as a separate company. And that company will then pay a licensing fee back to the school, the athletic department, for let's say $80 million to run the athletic department and run those things a little more normal. But I just think you're going to need to take football and just put it in a little separate entity.
That is totally unique. So you have homework, Fergie. I want you to put that together in a tweet.
Okay.
And either reply to one of ours that we've been doing today or from the last week, or come up with your own.
Yeah.
And get this out there, right? It's fascinating to me what you're describing, because it really does take some of the pressure off the university saying, we can't keep up.
Yeah.
Right. And we only want to focus on academics, and they don't want to be looked at that way. They want to be a football brand.
Well,
if you did something like this,
there's
it
two
would
examples.
Be a football brand.
I'm going to give you 2 examples that I know personally because a friend of mine's a builder. Universities are building dormitories all the time because they need dormitories.
Right.
And you realize those dormitories are not owned by the university. It's the university's land, but they set up an agreement to find a developer to build the dormitories and sign a 100-year lease. And the builder builds the building and then runs it as a dormitory and makes a profit off of the dormitory. It's a public-private partnership.
Right.
The same thing happens with our, we have our own medical center, the CU Medical Center. And the medical center, in theory, is a little bit off the books when it comes to biomedical research, to top surgeons. They're kind of their own brand within the university. They kind of, contract with the university med center. So if you could take football and create like a hybrid corporation off of the university's books, but the university owns a majority of it.
Right.
And they run it to its full capacity, lease the stadium, lease the facilities, whatever, license the brand, and make a nice amount of money inside and outside, and run it with a lot of ethics and a lot of standards within the Super League, then all of these things come together and it maintains, because I love listening to Greg, how he's really passionate about not losing the school and the academics in the football.
Right.
And I would argue that if I were Colorado football, I would start an entire school division that deals with public speaking, financial literacy, sports science, all the
BYU
things.
does all that.
Yeah, because I want my football players to go to school and get a legitimate opportunity to do what they love.
Financial planning.
Exactly.
And
I love listening to your comments about how BYU's football production is better than, the ESPN Plus. And my thought was, we need to fix our football stadium. There's no doubt we're trying to raise money. So my idea was that let's just say that BYU and Colorado, all of our football programs in the Big 12 are worth $1 billion. I'm giving you, but you know what? If you did a legit valuation like the one article, we're close, 400 million, 500 million.
Yep.
So if you did a 50+1 and you said your football program is worth $1 billion, couldn't the other public-private entity raise $490 million?
You would think.
And then have a new entity that is trying to make more money. We could fix the stadium.
Right.
But the agreement, when the school creates this entity, the agreement is that they get a check of $80 million a year back to the school for licensing.
Right.
And if the private entity is a savvy entity and can run itself well and makes more money for those that help run it, it's kind of like, Denver got a new NWSL soccer team, and they spent $100 million on the franchise fee, and they're going to spend almost $750 million building a stadium and running a soccer program.
That's ridiculous.
But
wow.
But Nathan, if there's legit numbers there,
sure.
Then BYU football and Colorado football and West Virginia football and Houston football is worth $600 million to $1 billion.
Right.
And if Ohio State wants to duplicate it and they're worth $2 billion, put $1 billion in your pocket. I mean,
yeah, there has to be, again, we're sort of circling back. We're talking about ways to come up with more parity, right?
Yeah.
Because that's at the end of the day, we want teams to be competitive. I want to reward the schools and organizations that do the most work, raise the most money, do everything they can to pay for the best coaches. And naturally, the schools that just cannot keep up, they will drop off.
Yeah.
Because they will not be able to compete because those schools won't be successful. So I want everybody to be successful. I want every single power conference, Washington State and Oregon, the ones that were already in the conference. Mm-hmm. And then there's a couple others I'd pick up. And that's your 72.
Yeah.
And now, but we don't need to talk Super League. We're getting, all these are fantastic. This is the one comment I want to get from Ross Dellinger. I don't think I copied the link. So here's the link for it. Ross Dellinger is talking. Go away. Ross Dellinger is talking about a comment from Greg Sankey, something we haven't even touched on the last 2 days, and certainly didn't cover it last week very much, is there's been these congressional hearings, and this is really, it deserves its own show, but antitrust, college football and the NCAA are trying to get the antitrust exemption back. Mm-hmm. And if they got the antitrust exemption back, and this, again, I might just have to do a whole show, then it would immediately remove a bunch of things. Player portability, going from school to school, the transfer portal. They would do certain rules around how much money you can make and what you can do with it. Mm-hmm. They're gonna come in and put in a bunch of, imagine college football 15 years ago. It was being run from an organization that was in this thing to make money, right?
Correct.
They were in it to make money. Now the schools say, we want that money back. We want to do it ourselves. And Congress is getting advised, and this is Greg Sankey's comment, one of many. House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan says that SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, we love him around here, has told him that under an employment model, players become employees.
Yep.
He anticipates that schools will drop the NCAA to the minimum NCAA 16 sports. You go from 38 at a Big Ten school to 16.
Tragic.
And now all those kids don't get to play at all. They have to be in club sports, which technically aren't supposed to be run by the schools.
Correct.
And Wisconsin's AD followed that up and said, I think that is an accurate portrayal. They both represent college football, the organizations. Not a lot of comments, and there were a few, but not a lot of comments were speaking to defend the players. Some congressmen stood up and said some stuff. But this fight in Congress is real.
Yeah.
The politics from last fall, whatever's in Congress right now, they're trying to get something done this year. They're working extremely hard at it, a lot of visibility. Everybody just needs to be prepared. If they get their antitrust exemption back, a lot of the growth we've had in the last 5 or 6 years could be muted.
See, I am not a fan of middlemen and third party that suck money away from something good. And I hate to say this, but we're having trouble with the agents now on NIL and these conferences and these commissioners. That's why I really would love to see just a hard reset that just for the good of the game and for the good of the schools. And I don't want to see Olympic sports crushed that bad. That would be an absolute tragedy. We have great ski team and all these other great lacrosse team. Those folks are important to a university's well-being.
Right.
And I would hate to see this thing get so big and so greedy that we go so far and eliminate
there has to
this
be balance.
opportunity. But Nathan, there's the House settlement. Let's just go back to the beginning.
Go ahead.
These are guys that you and I, friends of ours that played football in the 90s and killed themselves to play football and never got a dime.
Absolutely.
And I actually am very happy to see them get money if this settlement goes through. I mean, imagine there are people.
Well, that's not, to be clear though, it only goes back 5 years.
I am
from the settlement date.
I know. I'm still surprised by that too.
Yeah, I think health insurance should be provided to any player that played more than 1 year.
That's
in fact, even just 1 year. Anybody who played.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
subsidized health insurance or something.
And mental health. I mean,
there you go.
Tragically, Rashaan Salam took his life.
Yeah, that was really sad.
And was troubled, and CTE. So there's so many other factors to this thing. It's amazing. I saw your reply though. The idea of that's a real. It would be a tragedy, a real worst case nightmare to have that situation happen. So many things to solve. I just don't like seeing sometimes the people that get to speak the most and make the decisions aren't really doing what's best for the whole.
It's a bit of a disservice. They're self-serving for sure. This is how weak they are. For over a year, they've been opening our arms saying, Congress, save us. Please save us. Begging, save us. Save the NCAA. Give us all our power back. And, of course, there wasn't a lot of political will to get it done before. But now, right now, everybody else needs to stand up. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Right? I have a platform. I'm on social media. I am trying to get the message out. It's self-serving. I'm not going to say it, I'm not doing it for a reason, but get that information out so that everybody who's watching this show, everybody who's watching any of our shows, get involved in your school's NIL, get involved in your school's athletic programs, and tell them the direction you want to go. If you're tired of sports, just either check out completely or go to your school and say, I wish maybe we just take a step back. That can be healthy. There are some programs that probably should do that right now.
Yeah.
Really quick, and touching on that, Rock and Rant, obviously contributor in chief here. While high tide might lift all boats eventually, water leaks to its own level. In other words, everything balances out. Some schools will self-select out in the long run. And I think that tragic, not tragic, I think that's going to happen. Do you think that's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like I mentioned, I did spend a little bit of my life in Nebraska, and the University of Nebraska Omaha used to have a good football program, and they dropped it. They dropped football in order to focus on being more of a big city school, and they just focused on basketball and hockey. And that's a
Sorry, go ahead.
better way to go.
Rick's College used to be a feeder school for BYU. They were essentially a 1 or 2 training camp. It's where they sent a lot of return missionaries to get some, get their sea legs back.
Yeah.
And the church shut it down. And they had won national NCS. I don't know what all the organizations are. They'd won national championships for 70 years. And the church pulled the plug and said, we are focused, faith focused. This is where BYU is going to get that money. And they took the money away from Rick's College, renamed it, took the money away from BYU Idaho. That was also a competitor in these sports. Sorry, not Idaho, Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Took that money back and said, we're going to do exactly this. We're going to dial it back.
Yep.
You want to go to sports, we'll support football, but everybody else needs to, stay on point and play on club teams. And that's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Rock is, I mean, he's spot on. There's no doubt. Self-select, adjust course. And the best thing, though, that is capitalism. That is, financial decisions. Let's just create the good playing field for people to make those decisions. Let's find the right rules and regs and commitments. And it's the concept of major league sports expanding or contracting. It's the idea, if it's working, leave it alone or expand, and if it's not working, contract. There was that discussion of contracting, and then the discussion of expanding. So let's get that sorted out sooner than later, because the sport has a really good opportunity right now to stay relevant, because other sports are coming strong. They're coming up strong now. A couple of sports, I think, amazingly, NASCAR has kind of, it was at a peak. And
they dropped off.
I know.
Yeah, things changed, right?
Yeah.
The world changed around them. So let's get to the super chat from MBM, who's become an activist member representing Oklahoma State in the house, saying, great show, Ferg, well-spoken and knowledgeable. Hope to see him back. I was just going to say, Fergie, that whole plan you talked about from top to, when the show's over, when you have some time tomorrow, watch that piece that clip of 10 minutes.
Yep.
And I want to build an entire show around that.
Okay.
I'll help you. I'll do like I used to do with you before he was doing his own shows. I'll help you work through it. I'll ask you questions. I won't say anything. You'll be the subject matter expert. But if you want to, I would love to have a video that explains everything you just said, and I wrote it down here so I didn't forget. We need to search for the golden mean.
Yeah.
Right. We need to find that balance. There has to be something. It's never going to be perfect, but we need to come up with the Venn diagram where you can draw the biggest circle over the biggest number of schools in the middle that are the most balanced and provide the most support. They're not these outliers that do weird things. And that's what you need to build it to.
Yeah.
Our problem is in the past, that's been built upside
by
down.
Others and by others.
It's been built for the external, the guys who are on the edges, right? Well, we need to do it, but do it on the reverse.
Why do you think the name Greg Sankey makes us all just kind of shiver? Because it's like
cringe.
It's like he's making the decisions, or they're doing things that are this and that. And I am absolutely a big fan. I love organizations. I love structuring things win-win within what's happening, so that teams can decide, or programs can decide, to go in or get out and understand the rules. And I've been involved in I've been involved in MLS, so I know how certain leagues are going to have to grow. And I'm just a big fan of public input. I mean, public benefit corporations and those types of things.
Right.
And a lot of them, they're win-win. And I'd love to do it with you. I actually have a little bit of a penciled out version of it.
Yeah, PowerPoint would be great.
Exactly.
I'm not saying you have to do the work, but when I really want to do something, I'll make a PowerPoint and try to give visual, because we talk about a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. We're not one of those shows where you get the 5-minute hit. Yeah. I don't have that guy on the panel yet, but our shows are loaded with information, and some of it's opinion, but it's based on these other reports, right? We're taking actual tweets from actual people who are in the business and saying, this is what they said. What do you think about it? So, MBM, thank you so much again for your $20 super chat. We really appreciate it, and I'll give you a clap out. Thank you so much, and it's great to see you here. Really, you've really lightened the load since you've come in. We really, really appreciate you. The whole team loves you. Another Rock and Ramp might be, well, he's not smarter than me, but he might be the second smartest.
He is the best
on my team. He's so good.
He is the best.
Let's be real. The schools and networks and the conferences were greedy before greedy was greedy. So acting like it's the players and agents now is ridiculous. They're gaslighting. They're absolutely gaslighting, and Congress won't pass crap of substance because they're scared of that.
He's not wrong, but what's happening is that different parties are getting greedy moments, meaning like way back in the day, I talk about Oklahoma breaking up the college TV package,
right?
And then it went off and created different opportunities. And I, as a person who Big 8, Big 12, Pac-12, you can trace it. Isn't it ironic that Texas did two conferences dirty in a way,
right,
throughout their history, and now USC does it? So schools at the top are always feeling like they've got the moment, the chance and the moment to get greedy.
Right.
I would argue that I agree. The players and the agents, they're not the bad guys, but their opportunity to chase the largest dollar is good for them, but it's so out of control in the bigger picture that I would rather have everybody win. You know, everybody needs to win. I'm a big person. You know, the term deal is supposed to be equal. Right. It's supposed to be, I'll sell you my car for exactly what it's worth.
Yes.
And you'll buy it and you'll be able to enjoy it.
Exactly.
The idea that I got a better deal over the top of you, or I took advantage of Nathan.
Right.
Then we're not friends anymore. We're not going to like each other
anymore.
Well,
and those aren't I don't want to say loving, right? But they're not where everybody appreciates each other. Right now, it is not equal. That inequality is what we're talking about. And so all these things we talked about tonight, Congress and legislation is maybe the biggest one, because if that antitrust thing comes in, doesn't matter what house is, the NCAA can pretty much do whatever they want because they got that exemption, and they'll retain quite a bit of control.
So I didn't read that thoroughly enough. Are you saying though that the antitrust specifically is going to be granted to the NCAA versus?
Well, that's what they're screaming for. They're begging.
But isn't the reason that we're trying to get the new governance structure is to try to give it to them, or no?
Okay, so this is a circle. All right. So if we go to the governance part, the governance comes in, and that's all based on what came before. What came before the House settlement. Oh. The House settlement is a judicial ruling. It's not a law
against the NCAA.
And there's people that are suing that agreement. Now we have Congress down here, and they're talking about giving the exception that the NCAA lost. I don't know how that happened, by the way, but their antitrust exemption, at least the power they used to have with it, has been stripped from them, and they want a shield.
Yeah.
The NCAA wants a shield from Congress, basically indemnifying them from some of these rulings. The House. So now we've come back, and we're back to the House settlement, and it's a circle.
But it wasn't an antitrust it was an amateurism antitrust.
That's right.
So they were able, both the NCAA and Olympic committees.
That's correct.
Had an amateurism, and then that just blew up.
And that's where you got NIL. That's where you got revenue sharing. Everything came from that one ruling. Yeah. And there was never a congressional law to come in and back it up.
Yeah. I had a thought, Nathan, too. I know we don't want to go off in the weeds again, but one of the thoughts about football players is a little bit like a performer, like a artist, like a rapper or somebody that goes on stage and has a concert and gets paid X amount of money. Right. One of the thoughts, too, is that our football players go out and play 12 football games in front of crowds of people who pay money. millions of dollars. And they also get put on TV, like a concert being streamed or a concert being replayed on
Absolutely.
major TV. So I feel like that's the kind of money and opportunity that has separated college football from even college lacrosse.
Well, yeah,
Meaning
absolutely. Yeah.
that's the new metric, is what
Right.
can a football player do to go out on a stage, perform, and then
Yeah.
you can calculate the breakdown of the finances of the football game at the
Well, you get a
stadium.
fair market value at the end of the season.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, I
You
would
need a
argue
metric.
when I do that exercise in my mind, I get back to thinking, we all need really big stadiums.
It's true.
Because in
That's true.
theory, if it's based on that and or TV, then the reason the SEC and Big Ten get and Moen and all those folks can get big, these guys with 100,000 seat stadiums,
Yeah.
and good ticket prices, the reason their balance sheets look really good is because that's the reason. I have 100,000 seat stadium and the most
Well, it's
popular.
one of them.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Yeah.
And so their numbers are exponential. So I would argue that the only thing missing from that boat is when people tell me that Northwestern is going to be an amazing, stadium, their stadium is like 38,000 seats.
Yeah, they didn't build a stadium for capacity. That's not what the
Exactly.
purpose of the building is. But they don't have to, because they're in a Big Ten that every school in a couple of years is going to be making $100 billion all in. You don't
But
have
in a
to
way,
back it. BYU needs that revenue. BYU has the biggest stadium in the Big 12, and it's 65, 66 when we go over capacity. That extra 10,000 over Utah's 54, I think.
Yeah,
or 53. Makes all the difference in the money that they make for the athletic department. Correct. Absolutely, those numbers, and it's not a compare and contrast with Utah. What I'm saying is, it's exponential. The more bigger stadiums you have, usually it means you can back that up with people that are going to show up and watch these games. That then will drive the media markets and everything else. So let's just sort of circle this up.
Okay.
College football is an amazing product. We all know it.
We love it.
We're here for college football, and I would say all the other sports, but they just don't get a lot of run on TV. The NCAA tournament's the exception. Go BYU. Go Colorado. Hell, you're playing Houston.
Why not? Why not us?
But football drives the bus, and that's what we do around here. And I just think everybody needs to understand, if I really got bored one day, and I'm not bored right now, I would go and I would make a Visio, and I would draw an actual picture showing all the lines, how all these different issues connect. And see, in my head, having done this for 3 years now, doing thousands of hours of research, spending time to actually learn the subject matter, I now can look at something, and like you do, when you're really good at something, you picture it. You immediately can picture what you have to do, even if it's not something that requires a picture. And it's hard to then visualize that and get it to other people, which is why we try to do these shows. But right now, college football is in a fantastic place. It's right behind the NFL in revenue.
Yep.
And it would be bigger than the NFL
if it was organized.
If it was organized, if it was everybody and they had a true playoff and everybody regional travel and all that, they'd make a lot more money. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
That piece means that all these ideas out here, these things that impact, they all loop. They all are interconnected. The politics is tied into the judicial.
Yep.
The judicial is plugged into the executive at these states. Utah just passed a law, I don't know if you caught it, that I don't care what House does, you can't do any. You can pay NIL to players anyway. So say House didn't get done, Utah and BYU and Utah State could all pay players anyway.
Yeah. Colorado's doing the same thing, but I think there's no doubt that everybody is talking themselves to try to be together. And the question is, can they just ever thread the needle and finish the deal and get it organized? I really, though, the one thing that surprises me the most, and I saw comments repeatedly, is the networks, the conferences, all these people. The bottom line is the school. I have an athletic program that's worth a lot of money to everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here saying that I'm pulling the strings with, with all these people, trying to say that the president and the athletic director are telling the conference person to tell the network to tell the other conference. I don't like all of those food chains. I would rather just wish they were each their own standalone football franchise on the same playing field, growing the sport together so that it works better. Because I think some people are going to ultimately, like you said, probably opt out because it's just not worth threading the needle as an institution, paying the 20 million, paying the 10 million, paying the yearly. Everybody's making the comment. People are going to be writing a check to a court appointed, fiduciary who's going to distribute money to kids that played football. And
no, strictly that's not right.
Well, the House settlement is paying money to
but
former
that's the
players.
university.
No, I know,
That's
but I'm
the
saying
university doing that.
I-
You said write a check.
well,
The university
you're telling
already
me
has the money.
you're telling me that the university. So when the House settlement is done,
Yes,
and you have to pay X number of billions of dollars back to players that played the previous X number of years, you're telling me that the
5 years.
schools themselves are going to pay or find their own players, or isn't there going to be
that's what the new GMs are for, is to
But
take
no, I'm
care of
talking
the
about not
money.
paying. I'm not talking about paying current players. I'm talking about the House
The
settlement.
old players. Oh yeah. That's like in my mind, that's not even on the board because that money's dead money. It's gone.
Yeah,
The
but
only money we're talking about is the
has
yearly
like
stipend.
in a way when it's done and ratified, the University of Colorado Athletic Department has to write a check to some fiduciary organization.
Oh yeah. Now I see where you're going. Yeah,
And I'm saying that's
really.
That's not a fun. That's not fun. That's not a good part of
I don't
your
know.
budget.
I don't know if that's true or not. If your president of your school is a former player, right?
No. I want the
might
money
not
to
care.
go. I'm not saying I don't want the money. I mean, I want them. I want the players paid. I want the players in the past to get paid. My point is that this is where there's a lot of consternation. And I talk to people who know the people at the school, and it scares people to know that you got to pay an old bill, and then you got to pay a new bill, and then you got to play by new rules, and then you've got to compete in a situation where I'm getting 40 million, but the school, our old friends in the Big Red are getting 80 million.
Right.
And what happened?
That's where protection from Congress can really help.
Correct.
Like everybody else
that
isn't the Big Ten and the SEC. We just look. Midwinter, everybody, Winter Online, bookmark his stuff, watch his daily. He's reporting new news. You guys can become your own experts. He does these thumbnails for us. He'll give us a brief look at what some of these rulings are, and then you read into them, and you can see where they're at and what they mean. But at the end of the day, the organizations are now being built around something that may or may not be on firm ground. In the summer, they're going to start enforcing something that may or may not be on firm legal ground. And if you're the Pac-12 and the Oregon State, you absolutely could sue back. Now, I think in the settlement, I think they gave away their rights to sue. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Any of my Oregon State, Washington State fans, does anybody have the answer to that? I think when they were part of the settlement, they lose their ability to sue back and say, wait, you guys screwed us. We actually want to be in the club. You can't just write us off with some money. So that's something we're going to find out. Certainly I'll take some education if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that's part of the settlement. Anyway, this has been crazy. I have my wife's gone for the next hour. I normally go 2 hours. You don't have to stick around, certainly, but I have enough information here. Do you guys want me to stick around? Just put it in your comments. I mean, 2 hours is a long time. I can always take the extra time off. But if you guys want to talk about this stuff more, I'm happy to stick around and try to answer questions if you guys want to do that. It's just we can't do it in one show. And you know that. Everybody watching knows that. But
we can definitely answer. We have so many smart people that they're asking the best questions and making.
I know that's what.
And the best thing too is everyone's coming from a different angle,
absolutely,
from a different program, from a different city. You know, the conversation about Houston football was fascinating. The
Right.
conversation
That was
about
really cool. I
yeah, the
enjoyed that a lot.
conversation about what North Carolina is going to do and what it's an absolutely amazing
Right.
element. And we love our schools, and all we want to do is be successful and be relevant. And I think the thing that matters to us now is our game days are so exciting again, tailgating and going up to Boulder and watching the games and seeing the old teams come back. I mean, we love it again. I actually lost a lot of my Colorado love from probably mid 2000s until the
Well, they weren't
2016
winning.
team. Well, they weren't winning. They weren't caring. They weren't nothing was happening. And when we went to the Pac-12, we kind of didn't have, those weren't our teams. We weren't, we love to go to Ames. We love to
Yeah,
go
that
to
was
Lincoln.
a bad move all around. It was a very
Correct.
bad decision.
Correct. So
Everybody got spooked by Texas and USC and they're not making decisions out of strength. They're making decisions out of fear.
Correct.
And that's what killed the Pac-12. At the end of the day, nobody could make a decision.
Yeah.
All right. So
I got about 10 more minutes. Go ahead and let's answer some questions. And
we're going to try to get to them right now. Talking about all the money, it's easy to complain all the ideas. Shonsky's saying in this comment, fair market value has nothing to do with revenue sharing. Keep those separate. Again, it all mishmashes together. No, they're not at all the same. Revenue sharing is what we're talking about. A portion of that $2.28 billion house settlement. Okay. That covers 5 years. I think it's 5 or 6 years previous for NIL costs. And then going forward, it sets a benchmark.
Yep.
And you're in it or you're not in it.
Yep.
All the power conferences, Washington and Oregon State, already in it.
Yep.
Part of the settlement. Everybody else is either opting in and opting out. And that's really all you need to know. This fair market value deal is they're going to do an analysis. They're trying to find out if they could set out essentially salary cap numbers.
Yeah.
They're also doing an analysis of what's going on. They're supposed to be tracking NIL payments, pay for play for players third party.
Yeah.
Those are different ideas, but money happens at the exact same time. So we just have to talk about those two things separate.
The revenue sharing thing is neat. We had a local show that did a great job with our GM, with the Colorado football GM.
Right.
And he was talking about, he's truly an NFL capologist. He has to decide each player, freshman to senior, starter to non-starter, second string, third string. What can I pay you? What will I continue? Then you talk about a player that has a good season and you try to give them a retention money to keep them on the team. It's really fascinating. The NIL side, which is almost exactly opposite, is the idea of how marketable are players and what does a local business want to do? And can we get the car dealership, to provide vehicles and all of those things? And also, can we get real brands to join us? And I know that's a big difference between different cities and states is who has legitimate brands and legitimate alumni that can help these people do things. And like I said, getting Travis and United, getting KFC, getting all of those things is really important. Our NIL used to do nonprofit work in the sense that we would donate money. I donated to the NIL, and then they would donate the money to a pet shelter, and then the players would go to the pet shelter. Like that was
a picture.
So they were saying that the players showing up was the value of the NIL. I don't even know how they would value that today.
Really quick. I'm just going to ask one last time. 5 people said they want me to stick around. I need more than that. There are roughly 100 people watching me live on YouTube. If you want me to stick around, I really need to hear from you. Okay. That's 6. Shonsky says, if you don't want me to, that's fine. If you're tired of hearing me, sorry, Fergie and I could take off and I could just promo the show tomorrow night with Ute and Moen. They're going to talk about the existential crisis in the ACC. Let me bring up that show right now. It's called The Carolina Reaper Show. And it's literally about where does Carolina go? And that means North Carolina and the entailment of North Carolina State. There's politics. And then all the other schools in the ACC, that Grim Reaper is something else. And there's the time. I'm sorry. The time for the show is 6:30 Mountain, 8:30 Eastern. So bookmark that show and hit that little notification button, and it'll tell you when that pops up. It'll send a message to your phone. Anyway, that'll be a
Carolina.
great show tomorrow.
North Carolina feels a little bit like Texas and USC in
They're
the sense
trying
that
to
they
be.
are
They're
they
trying
were
to
they
be.
are kind of like the mafia boss of their conference.
Of the ACC. That's correct.
And you know, Texas pulled the Big 12 apart, and USC pulled the Pac-12 apart. And
Right.
Carolina that's a great show. That's the exact situation they're in.
All right, so this is where we're going to be. So I'm up to 10 people saying to me stick around. I'll stick around for a little bit. I'm going to let Fergie go.
Okay.
Fergie, thank you so much for coming on,
You're
and
welcome.
put that show together.
I will.
You don't have to write a script or anything, but kind of tell me what you want to do so I know what questions to ask.
Okay.
And we will do a live show. You can stay on as long as you want and answer questions. That idea is amazing. It really, really is. I've
No
heard
problem.
bits and pieces of it from you, but I could not conceive the
I'll put
entire
it together,
package.
and you and I will have a little chat, and I think it'll go over well. People,
I think you might want to be on that show too.
I would love to have you.
Fascinating.
I've thrown it at you, so I think he would love
Okay.
to give it a little chew.
I think there's little bits in there for everybody. Anyway, so Fergie, thank you very much for coming on. Tell everybody what you do and how to find you.
I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I run my own business and I work very hard, but I'm a big Buffs fan. I'll go to half the games this year, and if I do get more involved overall, I'll let you know. But just maybe send emails to you or tweet you, and then you can send me a message.
Okay, all right.
I just don't have time for social media beyond one night a week, and then business is business. I got to take care of that.
It's a whole for sure. But put it together. You let me know when you get it done. There's no rush to do it, right?
No
There's no rush to get this done. Let's do it right though.
Yeah.
Visual displays and stuff would help, but you don't have to. But I do that with anybody who comes on and wants to do a show. So I love it. Thank you so much for coming on.
You bet.
And go Buffs.
Thank
tomorrow.
you. Yeah, you bet. Take care.
See you later. Okay. Bye-bye. Fergie representing. There's my timer. Fergie representing. Oh, you know what? I have lied to all of you. Oh, my hell. I have another show I got to go to. I've absolutely lied to you for the last 10 minutes. I am so sorry. I completely forgot. I'm going on Cody Stovall's, what is it? It's Locked On Buffs show, and we're going to talk about this stuff. So let me see if I can find his show really quick, just so everybody has the link, and then you can go over there and ask me questions. How about that? So I didn't completely lie to you. Let's see here. I am so sorry, everybody. I have so many commitments, and it just gets. I am so sorry. Just give me 1 second. I don't know where it's at. What the heck? Oh, looking on the wrong thing. So, Cody Stovall. That didn't come up. Locked On Buffs. Let's try that. All right, I tell you what, let's not waste time here. I will post on Twitter. You guys all follow me on Twitter. I'll post a link to Cody's show. We will go there and we'll answer more of these questions, okay? I am so sorry. I'll do another show. I'll answer questions for you. You know I love it. If I'm really jazzed up, maybe I'll come back in a half hour and do it. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Again, thank you to Fergie coming in here and helping me out and asking and his analysis. You guys, I mean, we get the smartest people in here. I mean, the smartest. I don't think I'm missing any super chats. You guys are fantastic. Again, all the member videos, go on the main College Football Mafia page and hit the membership. Or first join, hit the join button. Join as a member, and then go and watch those member videos. If you watch them, you will absolutely be the smartest guys in realignment. Hands down. We have over 100 videos that all talk realignment. They're all realignment. ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, Mountain West. We cover it all. Okay. So please jump over to the page. Please jump over to Cody Stovall's show. Locked On Buffs. No. Locked On Pokes. Is that what it is? Locked On OSU. Anyways, it's Oklahoma State. Locked On Oklahoma State. And I'll answer more of these questions for you, okay? I appreciate everybody. Have a great night. Keep following us. This news is not changing. And we're putting out more and more product because there's so much more to talk about. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And everybody be safe. And we will see you either tomorrow night on the members show, that Carolina Reaper, or you'll see me Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, our big freaking Friday show. And that's me, Uten Moen. Appreciate all of you. You keep me going. Being unemployed isn't so bad when I have you guys all as a community. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. I'm going to say peace out and have a great night. Bye-bye.